Hello, my name is Ray Pritchard with the Warehouse Theater Company. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what it's like to audition for WTC. Now, for some people, when you hear the word audition, you can either get really excited or really scared. And hopefully after this video, you will fall more into the excited category. Now, when it comes to auditions, there are several different types of auditions. The first is what's called an open audition. And what that means is a casting call goes out and people show up and they're allowed to sit in and watch everybody else audition. And there's also something called a closed audition. And what that means is the casting call goes out, everybody shows up, but it's only the auditionee in front of the casting director and the casting company. For example, sometimes the director will have the stage manager, the producer, the costume designer, people like that in the room. And if it's a closed audition, then it's only you auditioning for that small group of people. Some people prefer that. Some people prefer the open audition. It's kind of a toss-up. Usually at Warehouse Theater Company, we have open auditions, meaning everybody is able to see everyone else audition. The most important thing to remember for auditions is just show up. We want to have you there auditioning for us. Sometimes there's a requirement for the auditions, such as learn a 1-minute monologue or prepare a section of a song if you're auditioning for a musical. However, even if you don't have that prepared, say you just found out about the audition and it's happening today, that might not give you a lot of time to prepare. Don't worry about that. Show up anyway, because most likely we will have something there for you to read or sing along to so that we can hear and see a little bit of what you can do. So show up. That's the most important. We love to see a lot of people at our auditions. And there's no way to get into a play unless you audition. So you have to do it. My other advice for auditions is just to have fun. You never know what the casting director and the other people on the production team are looking for. So just go out there and give it your best. If the director says, "Oh, I like what you did there, now could you try it this way?" It doesn't mean that what you did was wrong. It means that we just want to see how well you take direction and how well you can adapt with the given situation. Don't be intimidated by other people. You might be sitting there looking around going, "Oh, I've seen that person in this show. I've seen that person in this show. I've seen them in 4 shows." Don't let that bother you at all. If nothing else, go up and chat with them and get to know them and become friends with them. Because the biggest thing we are at Warehouse Theater Company is a family. We love working together. So that starts right from the auditions. If it is required that you prepare a monologue or a song piece, sometimes there's very specific requirements, like a 1-minute monologue. I have had in the past where I've asked people to prepare a 1-minute monologue and they come in with a 5-minute monologue. Don't do that. Or if you happen to do that and you get cut off by me or somebody else in the room, if we say, "Okay, thank you," again, that doesn't mean that what you did was bad. It just means that we have seen what we need to see of you, and we can make a decision from what we've seen. If you're auditioning for a musical, pick a song that can really showcase your voice. And what I mean by that is pick something that's challenging, but that you can do well. Most of the time when auditioning for a musical, we, from the casting perspective, ask that you don't prepare anything from the musical that you are auditioning for. For example, if we were auditioning for The Sound of Music, we wouldn't want you to sing "The Hills Are Alive" with The Sound of Music. We want to see what else you can bring to us. So, you've seen the audition notice, and you've gotten up the courage to show up, and you walk through the door. What's going to happen next is you're going to be given what's called an audition form. And it has your basic information on it, like your contact info, name, phone number, that sort of thing. It also has, usually has some things about clothing sizes, because we'll give that to our costumer, and they can use that to help start looking for costumes for you if you're cast. It will have a place for previous show experience, and sometimes this can be a little bit of an intimidation as well, because there might be somebody that has a huge list of show experience, and you might be saying, this is my first one ever, I'm never going to get it. And that's not true. The show experience, what we use that for is we just like to see what sort of parts people have had before. It really doesn't factor into our casting all that much. Unless something is really tight, then we might look at between two actors and say, well, they have a lot of experience, I know they can handle this part. They have very little experience. I'm not sure if I want to risk it on them, but maybe we can find a different part for the person with less experience. The biggest thing that we do take into consideration on the audition form is your schedule. There's a place for you to fill in what your weekly schedule is, and because to do theater takes a lot of time. A typical rehearsal process is Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. A lot of times it goes longer than that. Sometimes you come in at 6:30 if you have to work on something special. Sometimes you stay after. Sometimes it goes from 6:30 to 9:30 or 6:30 to 10 p.m. depending on the size of the show and depending on how well the rehearsal process is going, as well as how close you are to opening night. If it's getting closer to opening night and things still just aren't where they need to be, then that rehearsal process might start getting a little bit longer. So, on your audition form, please fill that out to the best of your ability and be truthful with it. There's nothing that we on the directing team hate more than when we've made our casting choice and you come into the room for the first rehearsal and then someone's like, oh, by the way, here's all of my schedule conflicts. Best case scenario, we go, okay. Worst case scenario is, well, this really won't work for us and we might have to recast your part. So be truthful as best of your ability on the schedule conflict. When it comes to the actual performances, that's also a long process. At the Warehouse Theater Company, we run for 3 weekends in a row. So not only are you rehearsing Monday through Friday for 6 to 8 weeks in the rehearsal process, but then once we open, you are definitely giving up your weekends to perform in the shows as well, especially sometimes on Saturdays when we have a matinee and an evening performance. You're basically at the theater all day. And that doesn't even take into consideration previous weekends where hopefully you're coming in to help build the set or help build props or things of that nature. The Warehouse Theater Company truly is a community theater in that everyone helps out with pretty much every aspect of the show. So you've gotten up the nerve to come and audition for us. You've walked through the door, you've filled out the audition form, and you've gone into the room and done your audition. What next? Well, now, unfortunately, it's a whole lot of waiting on your part. After the auditions are over, the director and the production team that is there with the director, usually the producer and the stage manager, and a lot of times the costumer, all start talking about what they saw in the auditions. And a lot of times, all of those people agree on who fits the roles the best. Sometimes they disagree. But ultimately, it is the director's decision. They have final say. They say, this is the person, this is the role, and that's their decision, and they move on. The best thing that I can tell you in the waiting process is do your best not to just sit there and worry. Oh my gosh, did I get a part? Did I get a part? I know, easier said than done, but that can cause a lot of anxiety. Usually, the night of auditions, we are able to call everyone and let them know whether they received a role or did not receive a role. And trust me when I say you will hear a lot more no's before you hear a yes. So, if you do get the call saying that you did not get a part, yes, it can be discouraging, but don't keep that from letting you audition in the future. Every single person in theater has heard no, 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 much more than they've heard you've got the part. It just takes a while. And sometimes there's a lot of different factors that go into the casting. For example, the schedule. Maybe you have a really busy schedule and somebody else doesn't. Typically, we might go with somebody that has a less hectic schedule. Another piece of advice on the audition form is a lot of times it will ask if you are willing to take any role or if you're only auditioning for a specific role. And that's something that I take into consideration a lot. If somebody marks, I will take any role, then I truly am considering them for any role. If they mark, I'm only interested in a certain role, then that's what they're being considered for. And if I don't see it in them for that role, then there's a good chance that they won't get a part in the show. So really take that question into consideration, because I take that one very much into consideration. I wish that there was a part for every single person in every single show, but in reality, there's just not. So like I said, a lot of times you're going to hear no before you hear a congratulations, you've been cast. But again, don't let that discourage you. We at Warehouse Theater Company really want as many people involved in our productions as possible. If you aren't cast in a production, there's usually other ways to be involved. You can usually help out with the crew, or with set construction, or with props, or things of that nature. And sometimes if you help out in those areas, then you can learn more about the acting process, and then that can make your next audition even stronger. So you've gotten up the courage to audition for us. You've walked into the room, filled out the audition sheet to the best of your ability. You've gotten the phone call that you have gotten the part. Now what? Well, next comes the rehearsal process. And that, my friends, is what I'm going to talk to you about next time. I hope you're all having a wonderful day and staying safe, and we at Warehouse Theater Company truly can't wait to see you back in our theater. Have a wonderful day.